Hey folks, Justin from Tackle Tactics in the shed, gearing up for a flathead session this weekend, fishing the edges with soft plastics with my folks. I'll put that session on the end of this video, but first off, I wanted to give you a handful of tips for fishing for flathead on the edges. So first thing for me is the tides that I like to fish. So prime time to target flathead on the edges is the last 2 hours of the run out and first hour of the run in. So for me, that's when the flats are draining. So the weed beds and the sand flats and all that are emptying into the channel and they're becoming exposed. So the fish can't be in all of that area. They've got to come out and hold on the edge and wait to ambush bait and stuff that's coming off the edges. So prime time is those last couple of hours of the run out, fishing those edges. And also sometimes you'll find if they're a bit quiet on the run out tide, the tide turns to run in and the bite will fire up and you'll get a bunch of fish on the run in. Key thing to remember on that run in, if it's pushing into a big tide, sometimes it can run in fairly fast. So you might want to up your jig head weight and just fish nice and fast along that edge on the run in. And that could be the time when the fish bite. So end of the run out, start of the run in. What am I looking for on those banks? So a lot of those banks are just big, long expanses of flats and edges, channel edges and that sort of thing. So I'll fish the whole edge, but what I'm focusing on is key structure that will hold fish. So I'll think about why the fish might be in that area. So for example, as I'm cruising along, here's a drain. As those drains come out, those drains drain the bait out to the fish. They're the last point where the bait can hold. So drains will definitely hold flathead. Other things I'm looking for are hollows that might attract the fish to hold in there in a bit deeper area. I'm looking for steep edges where they can ambush bait and that's coming off the edge, and I'm looking for points and things as well that create breaks in the current flow and create eddies that disorientate bait and create good ambush points for the flathead to ambush their food as well. So work along that whole bank, but keep an eye out for key structure and throw a few more casts around that area. Presentation wise, I've got a few presentations here and I always carry a few different presentations with me when I'm targeting flathead on the edges. So these are a few favorites. Key thing is to mix up your presentations. If it's not happening, if you're not catching fish, change it up. Change up your jig head weight, change up your presentation, change up the color. Just try a few things until you can get a few bites. If there's more than one of you fishing, say there's 2 or 3 or so in the boat, then it's a good idea to start with different presentations each, or even the same presentation on a different weight jig head, just so that you're throwing different things out there. Someone might catch a fish, then they might catch another fish, then they might catch another fish. There's your pattern. Whatever that person's throwing might be the go for the day, whether it's a paddle tail or a curl tail or a prawn presentation or whatever it might be. So carry a few different presentations with you and mix them up. So I've got a few favorites here. ZMan 2.5 inch prawns, 2.5 inch ST grubs and 2.5 inch slim swims. If I'm wanting to throw a bit larger presentation, my go-to flatty presentation is that 3 inch minnows for a bit larger presentation. So there's a few different presentations, so mix up those presentations. You can also mix up your retrieve. So when I'm fishing the edges, a lot of the time I'll be slow rolling or I'll be hopping or I'll be shaking that presentation and winding. And basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to stay in touch with the bottom. So I'm either bouncing it on the bottom or fishing it just above the bottom, but I want to be down there where the flathead are. So whatever retrieve you're trying, it pays to mix it up. Sometimes the fish want longer pauses, sometimes they want it fished faster, sometimes they want it fished slower. So you just got to mix it up on the day and see what the fish are biting on. See if you can crack a pattern. I would also urge you to get that presentation right in there. Flathead can hang out in almost no water, and they will, especially on the start of the run in, they'll push right up in there. But even on the run out tide, they'll be right in the edges. So I've fished with people before who are landing their cast 1 meter or 2 off the edges and they're not getting any fish. I'm punching right up on the edge, and you know, if it's sandy sort of edge and that sort of thing, you can even throw it on the sand if you want to and work it in off there. But the key thing is those fish will be hunting right up on the edge, so you want to get your presentation right up in the edge, right up in the drain, get it up in the shallows there. If it's really, really weedy and snaggy, you can always put a weedless presentation on so that you can get right up there in amongst it. Bait, look out for bait movement and look out for fish activity. So many times we'll be fishing a bank and no good, nothing, not happening. And then you see some bait activity up ahead. You move up to that bait activity and you'll get fish straight away. So a lot of the time, could be brim, could be flatty, could be tailor, whatever it is, there's bait activity, there's bait in the area, and then you'll see fish activity in that area as well, and that'll produce a lot more fish. So also you might find yourself on a bank that is not producing any fish and it's just dead. There's no bait on there at all. Try switching to another bank. Even the, you know, you might go from a wind-blown bank to one that's not wind-blown, or a weedier edge to a sandier edge, or whatever it is, and you'll find that there's a lot more bait activity on that edge, and that's where the fish tend to be holding, because they're there to get a feed as well. Finally, I would say scent up would be my last tip. I always scent up with ProCure Super Gel scent. Sardine pilchard is a favourite, mullet, saltwater yabby nipper. There's a heap of great flavours in that range of super gels. So I put that on every 30 casts or so. And after I get a fish, sometimes I'll put a little bit more on as well, and I just spread it right over the plastic. But that's my go-to scent, no doubt, makes a difference. If the bite's tough, it can get them to hit it more aggressively, and it can get them to hold on longer, giving you more time to set the hook and get a solid hook set on that fish. So ProCure Super Gel scent, add a bit of that, and away you go. I hope those tips get you hooked up to a few flatties on the edges. Let's get out on the water and see how we go finding a few ourselves. Righto, fish on.
You get there first.
Yep, that's the plan. Oh, flatfish. Oh, in and off. Pulled it in. Well, I wasn't expecting that on the prawn straight up, folks. That's a bit wild. That's a nice little flatty. 43 centimetre fish. So he's a legal flatty. Just where this water's coming across this bank here, he was up on the edge there. So we're going to keep that one for dinner, kick things off. Mum and Dad are here for the weekend, so they can have flatties for dinner. There should be plenty of water in here without weed though. Just rip it into there, JC. Get amongst it, yep.
Oh, that one's not happening. Another flatfish.
Yep, another flatfish. That time I cast into your spot where you guys were fishing. In on the weed edge.
You alright, mate?
Yep, he's on the prawn again. Only a 1/8 ounce 10 TT HeadlockZ Finesse UV jig head. Just picking the weed edges. So you can't see them here, but you can see the ripples on the water there. The ripples on the water there are the weed edge. So what we're doing is casting into the edge of that weed and just working our plastic back out from that weed edge. And these flatties are just up in amongst there, hitting any bait that's coming across as that tide drops. That's a nice little fish too. Yeah, beautiful fish, and that's on that 2.5 inch ZMan prawns, blood oil colour, on the motor oil colour in that UV head, and that's a 1/8 ounce 10. So that's a beautiful fish. We'll get him off. Alrighty, we're just fishing that prawn on a shaky retrieve. Just throw a cast, allow it to sink to the bottom. We're on the bottom, the line will go slack. Give it a few shakes. Give it a pause on the bottom. Just basically twitching it up like a prawn kicking up off the bottom, and then pausing so it can glide back down to the bottom. And as it's gliding back down, that's often when you'll get that tap or that rattle from a fish hitting it on the sink, on the pause. So you just got to keep an eye on your line, keep a bit of feel on there, waiting for that tap. Get the tap and set the hook. Hey, JC, on.
She's on.
On, mate. What do you got?
Big flathead.
What are you calling? Flatty? Looks like a flatfish. It looks angry.
Net.
I'm on the net.
Take him easy, dude.
Oh, he's fired up, JC.
Yep, my fish always seem to be fired up.
2 to 4 kilo red belly, 2-piece. 1000 Ceymar HD. Ah!
Flying fish.
Gonna let a bit of line out. Oh, he's off. You can fish. And I'll pretend I caught him.
Good on ya.
Beautiful, ready to go again. JC's on the 1/4 ounce 10 DemonZ Jighead with that 2.5 inch SwimZ in motor oil. That's a classic presentation if you want to catch a flatty. So we're just chasing a few flatties and whatever bycatch we come across, but you can see here we're working along this edge, sort of a sandy, muddy, weedy edge, and we're just fishing. The current's coming back this way. We're holding on the spot lock on the electric. We're casting slightly ahead so that we can bounce our lure back with the current as we bring our lure out and make sure we cover plenty of water. And I can also cast ahead of us here and out this other side and just bounce it back with the flow. If you don't have an electric motor, you can always anchor, fish, move up, anchor, fish, and just make sure you're covering plenty of water. Or you can go up the other end and drift back with the flow and work that edge. If you're land-based, same thing. You might walk along this edge, cast ahead, so you're casting up into the current, and bounce your plastic back with the current as you fish it on an angle and work your way up along that bank. There's a bird up there feeding, which is a good sign that there's bait in the water, and we can see a lot of bait activity along this edge, so hopefully a couple of fish.
That's only rubbish, mate.
Oh, Dad's on something.
It's only rubbish.
Brimbo. It's firing up. Oh yeah, Brimbo. Not a giant, but good fun. I'm catching fish. Uh-oh.
Another little brim.
Stingray jagged in the wing, maybe?
Turtle in the bum.
Stingray in the wing.
Slightly bigger brim.
Turtle in the bum.
Well, that'll get us down near the mouth.
Yeah. Alrighty, not confident on this one. That was a long pause before I twitched it. Long enough to get it on the bottom, but hook a stingray.
Okay.
I'm hoping it's not.
Stay in.
It's whatever it is, it's reasonable.
I'll stay in.
My tip is on stingray hooked in the wing, but I'll be stoked if it's a nice grunter or something.
GT.
Let's get up to the action part here.
Picked it up after a long pause on the bottom, that one. Oh, it's a little GT. Little Trev, good fun. He nailed it. Pocket rocket, Dad. He got put his turbos on.
In the other one.
Pocket rocket. Cheers, mate. Everything eats a prawn. There's a nice little GT. Fun size Trev. ZMan 2.5 inch prawns. Righto. Plenty of bait. Bait brings these guys in. They love eating a prawn. He's away. See you, buddy. You catching them, JC? Oh, oh, oh. Got to rattle straight up. Rim over. Yep. Yep, that edge is full of fish. Bloody.
Oh, do you need the landing net?
They'll be pushing that bait around too in there.
You want me on the net?
I can get him. It's all good. You get in there and catch a fish. He's a nice one. That's on that prawns, blood oil colour. Hopefully he doesn't bite me off. Just got a 1/8 ounce head because we're flicking right up in the shallows there. Beautifully marked fish. Just going to put the net in the water and I'm just going to steer the fish into the net. You don't want to be chasing the fish around with the net, you just want to put that net in the water and steer the fish into it. He's off, released himself. Another pan size flatty, beautiful fish. My prawns has gone out through the bottom of the net, come here. That's that 2.5 inch prawns. Beautiful presentation. First go I've actually had it having a real crack at some flatties with it, so beautiful presentation. Nice little flatty. Yeah, it looks alright over there, hey. What do you got, JC? Fish on, mate?
Oh, what's she doing?
Caught the silent assassin.
You got the net there?
Yeah,
What you got on?
Flatty.
Oh my
Little fella.
God.
I don't think he'll make the grade, JC, but he's a cool, fun little fish.
Different colour.
Beautiful. Long, skinny one, eh?
Yeah, he's skinny.
That one can go back in the drink.
Said there'd be one over there, but
There
I
we
think
go.
it's thrown out.
Yep.
That's that SwimZ again on the quarter 10 Demons. Great presentation for flatties in the shallows. Fishing edges. It's fired up. You can see the glow of that. The glow of that motor oil SwimZ, that UV. It's a beautiful colour. Plenty of pop in the water to attract the fish. That's a proven presentation. That one caught a lot of fish on that one, JC.
Yep.
See you later, buddy. Oh, you're swimming the wrong way.
Don't get stuck.
There you go. Good job.
Yeah, he's very, very slim.
Silent assassin. When were you going to tell us you were hooked up, JC? Oh, there's a bit of bait flicking up there. I'll get that one. What's that one? A brimbo or something? That's okay, bit of variety. Oh, JC's on. Oh, double hook up. Look at this lot. They're on
No,
Junior Burger jumping flathead. Good job. Double hook up. Slim swims.
I don't think mine's a junior bird.
Jumping flathead. Yeah, it is. I saw it jump.
I'll get yours
This is how we do it. Do it once. Look at this lot. They're on fire.
Get yours out of the way, Jed.
Mine's all right.
Let some line out.
Yep.
JC's on the
Not that
deck.
skinny one again, is it?
No, that one's a bit bigger.
This one's about a 60.
They look like peas in a pod, those pair. You might want to let it. Oh, yours is off, Dad.
Mine's off.
There you go. That's what can happen when you find flatties on an edge like this. There's two nice school-sized flathead. Basically, as soon as we saw that little inlet in there, Dad was like, I'll get a couple of casts in there, and that's where they were. Both those fish came out of that area. There's a little bit of a drain there. So there you go. We'll get these guys sorted and back in the water. We've got a couple in there for dinner, so we'll keep on keeping on. Oh, there's a tap. Let's get him in here. Belted it on the paws. Oh, he's a brown one, yep. Yep, nice. Nice flatty on the edge. You haven't been thrown in on the edge. I should do that more. Alright, there he is. Yeah. It's all the school size flatty. Hey, there must be a big one out there somewhere. Just working out plastic on those edges. Dropping tide. Perfect time to be chasing them. He's just scoffed that prawn on that 1/8 ounce 1/0.
That's a good lure.
Flatties are loving that prawn. Yeah, there's a lot of prawns around at the moment. The guys are out cast netting them all over the place. So makes sense to throw a prawn in for the flatties. He's a bit twisted in that. He'll straighten out and go back in again. That's another nice flatty on the ZMan 2.5 inch prawns. Yeah, it's madness the amount of movement in here. I just don't know that any of it's anything we can catch.
No, I haven't had a touch on anything.
Like it could be mullet eating bait. Oh, there we go. I got a little tiny rattle.
Oh, look at that.
It could be a ton of tiny brim. Brimbo?
I think so.
We are in no water. We've just had the electric bottoming out, motor bottoming out. We're in no water, but there's a whole lot of bait activity up in here. Yep, brimbo, Dad. So there's a heap of brim up in here just eating the bait, but not giants, eh? I bet there's a heap of them in here.
Yeah, the water's full of them, mate.
Yeah, that's what's going off back up there, right? See you, buddy. Wouldn't mind a big grunter or something.
I'd like someone to catch a fish.
I can't believe the amount of bait over behind us. Fish on, up on that middle weed edge. Doesn't feel huge, just a brimbo. Yeah, just up in the bait that was flicking up on that weed edge in the middle there. Yep, pocket rocket. Brim doesn't mind a prawn. That's where first few sessions out fishing the prawn I caught a bunch of brim, so it's been nice to get out on a low tide and chase a few flatty on that prawn as well, so good fun. Alright, I'll catch a tiny brim, just stay entertained. Yeah, there's no water over there, it's just small brim galore. If you want to catch them, I'll take you over there. I've got another one. Yep. Plenty of them. Oh, they're fired up, putting on a show in the shallow water. Oh, come here, buddy. Yeah, there's 50 million small brim just over here, so
in 6 months' time.
we don't want to catch them. But they put a bend in the rod, so they're still good fun. The cool thing is it's really, really shallow, so I'm twitching the plastic almost on the surface to get them to bite it. It's cool. There you go, folks, a beautiful afternoon session out on the water, chasing flathead on the edges. Get out there, hit those edges around your local creeks and estuaries, fishing lightly weighted soft plastics, and see if you can get stuck into a few flatties. All the best, fish on.